it might just I mean, come joins in on mute and joins the meditation, and we will then get going. All right.
Okie dokie, everyone, getting yourselves nice and comfortable and seated, and perhaps placing your hands on your knees or your palms on top of one another in your lap. And then I invite you all to gently close your eyes or take a light gaze. And let's just begin by arriving. And as you arrive, let's just start to settle into the space that we are in, the room that you're in, the house that you're in, or maybe outside, if you want to use outside. And just really feel into the openness, the expanse. Just noticing, just watching, just observing, just taking it all in without forming any judgment. And perhaps just for a moment, even just imagining yourselves floating around outside of this space. So taking yourselves out of your body for a moment. It's really feeling into the lightness. And as you gain a sense of that lightness, we're going to take ourselves back to our bodies. So just imagine that there's that tiny little you floating from that space into you. So as you come to your whole being, your whole body. And let's just start to really settle into the body, ground into the body. So just taking your attention and your awareness all the way down towards your feet, to the earth. And just feeling the light, gentle press of your feet against the ground. Feeling the solidity of the earth as well. And then just feeling each and every single toe whilst you're here. Just reminding yourselves that you are your feet. And then from your feet up to your ankles. From your ankles up the calves. Up towards the kneecaps. Just feeling the light press of the legs against the ground. Or if you're sat on a chair, you might just feel those calves hovering. And from your knees now up to the upper legs, so the thighs. Perhaps you've got your hands on your thighs. And just feeling the light, gentle press of the hands against your thighs. Feeling the warmth of your hands. Feeling the touch of your hands. And maybe even feeling a bit of a tingling sensation in your hands. Feeling that energy. And then from those legs up to the pelvis. Feel the gentle press of your pelvis against the chair or the earth wherever you're seated. Feeling the weight of the body. Perhaps feeling the softness of a cushion or a chair, whatever you're sitting on. Feeling that support, that stability. Feeling both your sitting bones, perhaps taking the weight from one sitting bone to the next. And then traveling up the spine now from the sitting bones. As you travel up the spine, just start to notice if you're feeling a little bit more length, a bit more height in the torso. So maybe going up one vertebrae by vertebrae at a time, up to in between the shoulder blades. And then coming up around to the shoulder area and just acknowledging if the shoulders now are feeling a bit tight, if the shoulders sort of moving towards the ears. And then can you just allow them just to drop away a little bit further now? Just relax those shoulders. And then from those shoulders, feeling the curve of your neck. And then from the curve of the neck all the way up towards the crown of the head. feeling a real opening and softness at the crown of the head. Then from the crown of the head, take your attention and your awareness to your face. Allow the face to soften. So allow the creases to relax in the forehead. Allow the eyes to roll back into their sockets. And then just gently releasing the jaw by just parting the lips. Allow the whole body to soften. And then I'd like you to start focusing on your breath. Just start to observe the rhythm and the quality whilst you're here. How is the breath? So just noticing if you're feeling softness with your breath, or if you're feeling tightness. Just observe, just watch. And if the mind is already wandering, that's okay. Just see if you can refocus back on just observing your breath. Now, once you've gained a sense of how the breath is, I'm going to work on just slowing and steadying that breath even more now. So by taking your hands, place your hands over your belly. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Send your breath down into that belly space. Allow the belly to expand. And then on the exhale, just allow the belly to relax. It might just gently draw in. Inhale, allow that belly to expand. And then exhale, gently draw it in. So just spending a few moments here with this belly breathing. And perhaps just noticing the cool air or semi-cool air entering through the nostrils. And on the exhale, just notice that warm air leaving the nostrils as well. So two things to focus on here, the nostrils and the belly. See if you can really bring a sense of equality, equilibrium between the inhale and the exhale. Maybe slowing the breath down if you need to on the exhale or the inhale. Anytime that mind wanders, just refocus on your breath at the nostrils and the belly. And then just taking your hands away from your belly and perhaps placing them back on the knees. Just coming back to center now. And just noticing how you're feeling just after having sat with the breath for a few moments. Just feeling into the body, into the breath. Okay, and then when you're ready, gently opening your eyes, coming back into the space.
Amazing. Welcome, Francesca.
Hello, sorry for the delay.
Oh, you're fine, don't worry. It's all good. It's a funny week this week with the kids just breaking up as well. I think that has an effect on then kind of a bit of a shift, isn't it? So all good. Well done for making it and being here, even though we changed the day. Thank you so much for that, Lizzie. That was needed. oh yeah, I would literally, I want to bathe in that forever. I don't ever want to leave, but we have to, we must move on. Okay, so just to kick off, we'll spend probably 20 minutes just here around the crew, and then we'll take you forward into life purpose and give you an intro to module 3 shortly. But we just wanted to kind of cover off a little bit around how this landed with you. This you probably found was a little bit easier logically because there's they're real people in your lives, and it's not so much of the whole like creating things from nowhere, from within. So for the kind of logical mind, this is an easier practice for us to get our head around, but you can see how it's really different to things like the allies and the leader within. So we give you all the tools because some of it will land, some won't. So if it did land, amazing. If it didn't, again, this might not be for you. So don't force it if it doesn't resonate as well. That's something I would say. And I said at the beginning of the call, if any of the phrases didn't resonate, like medic, first mate, comedy master, first engineer, please just completely ignore them and create your own, because you please have so much freedom around creating what you need. It's about thinking about what you want to draw in, and those profiles are just to kind of give you a starter for 10. Really, it doesn't even have to be 4 or 5. It could be 10, it could be 2. So that's kind of really important for me to say, to kick off, to almost kick off with. And yeah, I guess it's that whole phrase of, this is one of my favorite quotes, but people are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. That is literally my quote that underpins all of this work. And it's being okay with the fact that some people fall away if they're not kind of supporting who we are becoming as well. And one thing I would say, and I said this to Francesca earlier, is this bit of the program is the tough bit, because actually a lot of people get stuck here because this is where it gets hard, right? Because you're like, have to say no and put some boundaries in place with people that are no longer serving you. But this is why we do it in a group, because of the fact that we're doing it together, and seeing someone else like stepping away from a relationship that isn't, particularly healthy, or us kind of pushing back on a friendship that's been one-sided for the last 10 years, like feels really hard on our own. But doing that together, there's a lot of comfort in that. So don't worry if some of this feels hard, because this is where you're not just changing your life internally, but you're changing the world around you as well. So that's why that might feel more difficult, because to this point, we've looked at the internal pieces. We're now starting to look at how we are being in the world, which is really different, actually. So to kick us off, we're just going to like throw you quickly into a breakout room with one other person, just for you to introduce one of your crew members, if that's okay, just to kind of like tell your partner a bit about them. You might use the language, you might not. And maybe as the receiver of that information, just be curious, really kind of understand like what role they play, and, understand that relationship. Because again, you mirroring that back will be really useful for you to deepen your learning with this as well. So I'll give you just like maybe 3-4 minutes for this bit, and then we'll come back and do a bit of kind of group sharing. So how many of us are there? So there's, yeah, okay, cool. So we're going to go through breakout rooms, 2 people in each, and then yes, we will see you shortly. So I am with, if I put Lizzie, you put, sorry, you're not talking correctly. I put you with me is what I meant. Then that might, oh, actually, no, I don't think you need to be with me, because you're perfectly all in. Yeah, that's fine. You're all in 2s. All right, off you go. Okay.
recuperating from the weekend.
Yeah.
Even though it's something that I had organised, yet it turned out to be a bit energy draining.
Oh.
So today I'm a bit like, very
Oh.
slow, very, oh my God, where in the world am I? Some energy.
And then it's been
Give me
hot,
some energy.
hasn't it? Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, like I said, I did, start the intro bit, which kind of, set the scene for me. But because we had already spoken with Natalie and we touched certain aspects of it, and I was like, oh, it's really easy for me in terms of the comedian, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas when I went on to other roles, I did get a little bit stuck, but it is extremely helpful to know that we don't need to stick to just these 4 roles. They can be very individual for us.
Yeah.
So it is a very useful piece of feedback. So yeah, but in terms of the comedian, yeah, that's my bestie who will laugh about anything and everything, any time of the day. And because we're now sort of, we live apart, quite far apart, but even if we pick up the phone in a month's time, phone each other, we're still on the same wavelength. We don't need any time to remember who we were to each other. We just start talking. It's like,
yeah. No, I've got mine. I've got Louisa, and I have to say, I've got them. I ended up with. So I did. The titles don't feel right, but I don't know what else to use. So I've kind of, I suppose, done descriptors for them, and I've ended up with, I suppose, like 3 or 4 people, and they all have ways of supporting each of them. It's quite interesting. If I ask the right question of them, they've got quite, so like my mum and dad, for instance, if I'm having a moment, my mum is all lovey-dovey and calm and emotional, and then my dad gives me a hug and goes, and what are you going to do about it? And actually it's the combination of the 2 of them,
yeah, I love
that have often helped me get through and helped me decide on something. So it's quite, and I realized that a little while ago, that's the way my dad works. That's what he does, and I think that's why they work well together. But like, my fellow Walter and my best friend Louisa are in a couple of the sections, and the comedian one, it has lots of kind of, I suppose, options, and I think it then depends on what I want to get out of it. So is it a new experience or that? And actually, but my Louisa, my nieces and nephews actually as well, I was thinking they're the ones that if I want a fun day, we did it was it Saturday, we went around for birthday cake with Jesse, and he's trying to stuff a chicken nugget in your mouth, and it's just it's so silly, but it's just hilarious. And then and best friends, but also then people that I work with, we have to giggle because it's hard, and actually we do have a really good giggle, even slightly darkly morbidly,
yeah.
given the work. And then friends that I don't see regularly, and I wouldn't consider my best friends, that don't know everything about me, but actually if I want a good night out, we all kind of come with that same need. We're just not very good at organizing it. That's the thing I've realized. To bringing them in more often, I think, is something I need to work on.
Yeah.
Funny you should mention your parents, Emma. As
I'm just going to go into another room. I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
Oh, right, yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
I was just like, yes. Carry on.
My mum. because she's one of my harshest critics. But we've I've now got quite good at putting boundaries with her, and she's really interesting because she sort of swings from one thing to the other. When you think that she sort of dismissed something, and then the following week she'd actually saved a magazine for me with an article about crystals because she knew I was interested in it. So, you know, she's very sort of, you just never quite know how things are going to play out. But I've learned to accept it now and just sort of go with whatever the flow is, really. So
actually, yeah, for me, because I'm a bit of a softie, I'm not always very good with boundaries when it comes to my family. But it got to like a bit of a breaking point for me back in, I don't know, I think it was like March time or something, where it really affected me, like emotionally and physically. And I then actually I can't remember, I'd spoken to a few people about this, so my crew essentially. And yeah, you know, I wasn't putting my own needs first, and so I have started putting boundaries in with certain family members, because I tend to take the mediator role in my family. And
exactly. I'm a similar person. I'm always the mediator I'm the person who everybody turns to if there's a crisis. And sometimes you just think, actually, you know, I'd quite like to have a break, which is why it's really important, as you say, to put boundaries in.
It's interesting as well, because when you first sort of say no to them, they're a bit like, oh,
yes,
you know, and react. But then they actually, I think, respect you more for it afterwards.
Absolutely.
And appreciate the time you give, because they're like, oh, you know, this is really valuable, right? Like you're giving a cost to your energy, so they're receiving that with gratitude as well. Yeah, amazing. Thank you guys for sharing. I'm going to bring you back if that's all right. And then it might be worth thinking about, maybe one of you, not unless you want to, but maybe sharing back with the group just to get a few different perspectives. But yes, it will bring us all back shortly. There we go. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. There we go. Perfect. Awesome.
And we're back.
Welcome back. That was nice and quick.
It was.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting, this piece. I definitely found it easier when I first did this compared to when I first did Allies, because it was a bit like physical. You could like see it and touch it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's there, but I don't. Yeah, I know what it looks like. Awesome. Welcome back, Emma. It's weird you come back without Maria. Oh, usually you come back together. Oh, there you go. We'll just wait for Francesca and Sophia, and then we will debrief. Can't wait to see about any new roles we created. I spoke to Francesca earlier about maybe creating like a crew member around an example around like she's on a career search at the moment. So again, that could be an example about a crew member that's a mentor, like in a professional sense as well. That'd be an example. Francesca was saying about earlier that we talked about like potentially creating, or you could create a crew member from like a mentor or someone you look up to in your career. If you're doing something like a career search, that would be something that you could almost use as a business coach, or someone that you kind of you aspire to. So again, I think for anyone struggling, it's thinking of what the issue is, or where you're going, and then working back in terms of then filling the role in terms of what skills and abilities does that person need to have in order to support me. That's a really good way to flip it on its head and look at the solution, and then find the individual, you know, working back from that, really. Because you might consciously have someone supporting you in a way that you don't realize as well, that are doing so much, adding so much value, but you've just not consciously recognized that as well. So we're constantly through this program flipping from the conscious to the subconscious. And some of this is awareness, we're aware of, and so a lot of it we're not, which is fascinating. Anyone want to share anything that you found powerful with that experience, or any kind of roles that you created that were different and unique, or kind of, just any thoughts so far?
Well, I was talking about the role of the medic.
Yeah.
So my lovely work colleague Rosa is my medic because she is my go-to person in Aspire, and in fact she's regarded within our organisation as like Mrs. Aspire because
Oh, really? That's lovely.
you know, she has a very caring nature, and you know, she's somebody who people feel they can go to for support and advice and everything, and that they'll be listened to and things. So she was the first person that came to mind when it came to the medic and sort of looking after the crew. So
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And I think it shows that we were talking, I think earlier, Francesca, as well, about the family. So Francesca was saying her mum has lots of sisters and she feels like she needs to kind of be there and have friendships with all of them. And we were saying actually, like, your friends become the family you never had, in the sense that actually you can just think a bit wider in terms of kind of that family unit as well, because often that kind of family piece is just wider than your immediate family too. So yeah, colleagues are a really big part of that, aren't they really? Yeah. And how did that resonate with that initial quote of people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Is there anyone, from me saying that, is there anyone you think, oh God, yeah, that's someone that came into my life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? Anyone? Yeah, we're all nodding. I find that I've met a lot of people that have just interjected in my life and got me on a different path, and then they've left. And it's because they were just brought in to kind of get me off one path onto another. And actually sometimes we have a tendency to hold on to friendships because of the scarcity attitude, and not feeling like we're going to find them again in the future. And there's a real beauty in letting them go if they're meant to as well, because they were probably about up-leveling us or helping us grow to a point. And then if they fall away, they're meant to as well.
It's interesting because I was saying to Caroline, there was a friendship that I had not that long ago, and I really liked the friendship, but I think this friend had a few issues herself, and then she kind of went off the scene, and I kind of was a bit hurt to begin with, because I was like, oh, I normally get on with everyone, like, you know, it's not usual for people to kind of not like me or whatever. Yeah. And anyway, then she disappeared, and then just when I let go basically, and then she reappeared.
Because it was teaching you a lesson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You probably felt really differently about that because you didn't need it in the same way. So then I bet you asked yourself whether you chose it, and that was a really different choice, right? You weren't needing that friendship. You were choosing to have it in your life if you did or didn't.
Yeah, as a life lesson, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. Any other thoughts before I move on? No, all good. Next question, my favorite question. You always know I love the no more than the yes. Was there anyone that didn't get a crew seat or got rejected, so had a seat and you were like, no, I need to take your seat back? Because this is just as powerful, realizing who isn't serving you, but it can be the harder bit, because that then requires confrontation or vulnerability to kind of like change that as well. Was there anyone you realized, they're not really supporting me to be my best self? Maria?
I think it was somewhat easier for me because I started removing people who were not supporting, or we were not seeing eye to eye with quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been preaching to other people who are suffering from certain friendships or relationships. And I said, well, people must be lifting you up rather than bringing you down. You shouldn't be with somebody, who is, getting you into a toxic relationship and is actually, making things worse rather than improve them. So I think I've got few friends, but these are the people I can 1,000,000% rely on, and I know I can speak to them at any point in time, without necessarily speaking for a few months, for a few weeks, and again we'll be feeling each other and we'll know that we're there for each other. So yeah, but like I said, as soon as there was an inkling of a person trying to suck up my energy, I totally distance from the person and I reject them straight away. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
all.
and it was extremely powerful and, you know, much appreciated when I did discover this, you know, whenever I
Yeah.
did. So it's beautiful. It's very liberating.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom in that, isn't there? And I think the first one can be quite tricky because we don't know how that'll be received, but actually then there's a real freedom in the fact that you're like, yeah, like that's, yeah, really gives us a push on, doesn't it? Yeah, I always am very careful about this module because in my last journey within, we had 3 of the ladies end their relationships. So I'm really careful about the fact that it can be really hard, and I don't want to force things, you know, to change like that. But that is often the result of sometimes going through this, because we realize like so much more consciously around what we're feeling and who is really standing by us. And, you know, so yeah, I think some of this might not bed in now. Like I say, like you might process this further down the line, but it's just important for us to always choose, you know, is that person, I said to Francesca earlier, when you leave someone, if you've spoken to them, do I feel more energy? Has my energy increased or has it decreased? Because then it's a really good guide about whether that's draining your energy or giving you energy. However, we also said, if that's someone that is draining you energy that would then do the same for you, obviously that's fine because it balances out. It's not about everyone giving us energy, because sometimes we have to help others, but it's knowing like, would that person hold me, you know, and support me in the same way, really. Yeah. Fab. Okay. Any final thoughts on that before we spend a little bit of time on introducing module 3? No, that was kind of definitely easier than some of the other stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right. So life purpose. So this for me is not necessarily about career. A lot of you have come to the program with career change, like objectives, you know, Maria, Francesca, and Janie, by the way, Janie on Watch This Back, got a new job last week.
So
yeah.
I got a new job as well.
Oh, did you? That's amazing. Oh my God. See, so that's what I mean. That's amazing, because that's an indirect benefit, but you're not going into this process with that, you know, as an outcome, but it's coming back into connection with yourself. Like that is a natural step that it will be easier to then align. Sophia, tell us a bit more. Are you happy to share?
Yeah. So obviously, like, as you know, like I've been struggling with my job a little bit because it's been like massive changes and all this kind of stuff. And I'm off sick at the moment. And I was really like, I love working in the area that I work in, but yeah, so I was just finding it really difficult. And then my really good friend, who always talks about how much she loves her job, was like, oh, there's a job coming up in our area, and it's still in CAM, so it's still in child and adolescent mental health. It's just in like, so the team is called Horizons. They work with children and young people who have experienced sexual harm. And it's a really small team, and it's a team that I've been like desperate to work in. So I'm like super excited. Yeah. So yeah, really
oh my God, well done. And I think, you know, for you, having that time off as well probably was what you needed, and that all played out how it was meant to, for you to just have a bit of space to get out off the hamster wheel. Because we were saying earlier, like if you don't get off it, you don't realize or take stock of kind of what you need next and feel into that. So no, congrats, amazing. I won't say too much about Janie, but she's going into the mental health arena as well, because she's been really interested in that area, and actually Oxford Health, which a few of you work for at the moment, around a program that will train her to do the clinical delivery as well as then deliver, which is exactly what she wanted, because she wanted to be trained on the job rather than having to go and kind of source that herself. So I'm sure she'll tell us more about that next week. So yeah, amazing. And you know, it fits really well to life purpose, because for me, we skip this bit around the who am I when we're looking for life purpose, right? We all get really impatient and we're like, I need to know my why, right? This whole what is my why, like, is so big in society, but we can't find our why without our who. What? It just doesn't make sense, does it? So I think this is why we kind of do it this way, because now you know who you are and what makes you tick. You can understand how you can make a difference in the world. So this is about how we take your work being you, truly, authentically you, and then the ripple effect, how I then support others, how I make a difference, and how I then make a change. So, you know, this is why it's kind of structured in that way. And for me, it's just really important to say this isn't just about career, because yes, a lot of us will be thinking about that big, you know, career move, because obviously it takes a lot, you know, a lot of our lives up, you know, the work we do. But actually for some of us, so Fiona and Caroline, Lizzie, like it's about the side hustle. It's about something on the side that you're building up over time. For others, it could be if you're happy or you kind of need, or you're tied to your role in any way, it could be how you volunteer, how you just are on a dog walk with another human being, how you are when you have a transaction with someone in a shop and actually they, I don't know, they put all your shopping in bags and pack up for you, you know, how you actually connect with them and make a difference and kind of make them feel how you want them to feel. So it can be tiny if it is overwhelming for us, because I think that sometimes we make it so big that we never get there because it's almost, it feels unattainable. So for anyone, I don't think there's anyone that really feels like that because we've all really got our heads around it. But if there is, then it's about the daily action. It's about how do I want to make a difference to one person every single day? That would be where I would start, because that's then a really nice feeling to follow. So just to kick us off, so for the next week, you're going to go and do the whole, yes, I'll tell you exactly what bit, but the whole life purpose bit, which frames everything. And then we will basically create our own personal life purpose statements, which is really, really exciting. So you'll come away with like your own built impact statement. So that'll be framed like I am the X that. So the I am the is a metaphor of how you are in the world, and your impact is then what you will go and do and deliver. So that'll be almost something you'll have to hold yourself to account with this work moving forward. But we'll break it down. So Lizzie's going to do the real embodiment around the metaphor, because that's quite a big part of it, which will draw on the leader within work. And then I will then focus more on the impact piece about the how as well. So just to kick us off, we're going to just do a short guided visualization that's going to just give you a feel into this, so that you kind of know how this is going to look and feel, because obviously it's quite a big area for us to break down, and then we'll kind of debrief it, and then we'll let you go away and then come back and then unpick it a little bit more, really. So feel free, as always, just to turn your cameras off. It's not very long, it's only kind of a minute or so, but yeah, feel free to get comfy. Okay. So I'd like you to think of a time in your life when you felt at your most powerful. A time when your spine, arms, and fingertips were tingling with excitement. A time when you simply didn't care what anyone else thought of you, and you were absolutely alive. I want you to notice where you were, what you were doing, and who was around you. And then we're going to answer the following questions. Where were you? What were you doing? And who were you with? Okay. So come back to the room. That's the kind of visualization that doesn't need necessarily you to visualize it and embody it. It can be something you do in your logical mind as well. So whatever works. The first thing I say, don't worry if nothing came up, because we're doing it live, like I always say. But if you had a random memory, that's always the one to go with. It's the first memory that pops into your mind, always. Okay, and I will do one more today that's very different, so that you will have something that I think will resonate to then take you into next week. And you'll obviously do these in the homework as well. But before I do that second one, does anyone want to share anything, any memory that popped in around that feeling or that moment?
Okay.
Maria, yeah.
So instantly I remembered my time in Dubai where I first discovered my passion for rescue work, animal rescue work. And so, and that cemented during that time as well when I was meeting, you know, like-minded people and cooperating with them. So I think that was probably the last time I felt, you know, as powerful as I could have, because I was doing something, you know, that I enjoyed, and I was making the change, I was impacting lives, and I was obviously with, you know, people, you know, with other volunteers who, you know, who were doing it with, really. So
yeah, amazing, because again that straight away shows and give you some, because this is all about giving you a few hints around like some of the stuff that we really care about and some of the stuff we really want to make a stand for. And for you, that's absolutely directly in alignment with the work you want to pursue and the questions you have around bringing that through more into your life, you know, really. So that, yeah, so that's awesome, you know, really powerful. Anyone else want to share? And feel free, you know, just to spend some more time on this, because I have literally only just asked you.
I've just, nothing came up whilst you were actually doing that, but as you were talking there, Maria, actually, there was, so I work with people who have brain injuries, and I suddenly just remembered I had this one experience with a chap where he was in kind of what we call variable consciousness, so not really able to talk or speak, in a wheelchair, not with, you know, no communication, no awareness of time, or any of those things. And I remember we'd been doing some work trying to get the brain back, you know, getting itself rewired, and he managed to follow the instruction just to point his finger at my hand, and went on to do some really amazing recovery. But just that one moment of that first step of, you've understood an instruction that I've given you and you followed it through.
Yeah,
that was
body almost. You felt that, like, yeah.
I think I cried, if I remember rightly. It was only 19. It was amazing.
Oh, wow. You know, and I guess that feeling and how deeply you felt it made you realize this is where I need to be. Like, this is exactly where I should be as well. So it's almost, really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we're going to do one more, and it's slightly different. You will do all of these separately as well, but I just want to give you one that is a bit different for you to kind of be able to resonate with, if that was particularly tricky. So this isn't something you need to turn your camera off for at all, but it's just an activity I'll read out. So you've been given a billboard and can put any message you want on it. Thousands of people will drive by and see your billboard every single day. What does it say? And I think, Emma, you've done this with me already around Oxford Health. So again, it'd be really interesting to see if that's shifted for you. So if it's like your one-time chance to like change a million, thousands of people, you know, through just one message, that's a really good way to think about something that's really important for you to say. And to give you an idea, I said this to Emma as well, but mine used to be just do it. And it's obviously not anymore, but that was a real direct reflection of my masculine, me and my masculine, because I was all about action, doing, changing, you know, making a change. And you can see how my tagline then affected who I was being in the world at that point. But right now, it's you know, I wouldn't sum up necessarily a phrase now, but there's so much more of me that's about being, you know, being present, not rushing through life, not all about the action. I'm craving peace, you know. So you can see in just what, 2.5, 3 years, how different that slogan is. So then how I operate in the world then is going to be so different as a result, if that makes sense. You can see how one statement can reflect directly who you were in different versions of yourself as well, that come and go. Emma, do you want to share? Do you remember what your first one it was?
Yeah, and I think it would actually probably still be pretty similar.
So,
did we do it slightly differently, that it was you were sat in a theatre or something? Like, anyway.
Yeah, I think we might have kind of had a different context. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I think of the billboard, actually probably it would just say smile at the next person you see.
Yeah.
And it's that,
like infectious, like ripple effect. Yeah.
Exactly. Ripple effect. Get that. And also because that also means you've got human contact, is now what I probably realize about it. Again, it comes back to that connection. And yeah, and joyfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, joy. That's
And I
really
think it would stay, actually. I don't think I'd change it right now.
amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts initially of just words that popped into your mind? And if they, Maria's like, yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Was it? Let's do this. Is that, was it?
No,
Oh.
no. It was be kind to others.
Yeah.
You know, the environment and animals. Just be kind.
Be kind.
Be
Which
mindful.
is so powerful, isn't it, in itself? Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Francesca.
Knowledge is power. That's always my my tagline. But yeah, that's what it would be. It's the first thing that came to my head.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? And what's your role in that? You know, how does that statement link to you? And I guess this is something for you to take that question away if it's not something, but that's where with all of these, it's about what makes it unique. The fact that that's being said by you is the really interesting bit.
I just think that it's I don't know, it's always stuck with me since I started the job. And on the first day, the deputy managing director said that to me, because I was chosen for this role over someone who was far more qualified, but they really liked me. They liked my that I'd been off to Brazil, and that I had a lot of random things on my CV. They thought that I could bring a different energy, but I also really needed to be knowledgeable about what we were doing. So he just said, you know, just learn, and just keep reading and keep being part of things, and just, it's all, you know, you will feel so much more confident when you're knowledgeable about this. And he was right. 3 months later, I'd done a lot of studying and reading lots of magazines and newspapers that he sent my way. And I felt because I was really underconfident, because I knew that they'd seen this other person, but they chose me. So there was a reason they chose me, but I obviously needed to prove myself and that I could do that. So I just think it's really important. You always feel more confident. It's like when you start a new job and you're a bit, I don't know what I'm doing, but then, you know, a few months in, you do know what you're doing, and it's because you've gained the knowledge of what you need to do to achieve what you need to achieve. So
amazing, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Sophia, Caroline, Lizzie, any final thoughts? Again, you don't have to share.
I think for me it'd be something like, you are important, or you matter.
Oh, I love that. That speaks to me. You matter. Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like really important. And I think it ties in with like the whole, like, smiling at other people, and just like everyone kind of matters.
Making each person feel like an individual in their own right, almost like really, embracing that uniqueness of, I really like that, actually, because we can lose that, can't we, in our collective society if we all, you know, are pushed to be the same, but actually it's pulling on the fact that you are unique and, you know, pulling that, driving that authenticity, really. I love it. Amazing. Caroline, Lizzie, feel free to share. If not, no stress, no pressure.
Yeah.
One that I kind of, sorry.
That's right, no, go for it.
Lizzie, you go first.
One that resonates with me that I use in yoga, and it's still very close to me, and I'm always working on that. It's just everything you need is already inside you.
It's like I paid you to say that, Lizzie, because that's actually everything to do with the journey within, isn't it? Yeah, like everything in, and that quote of if you change your world inside, your world outside changes. That again really resonates with that one as well, doesn't it? Of actually looking inside, and then everything else will change outside, whereas we tend to flip it and look for the latter without then doing the inner work, really. Caroline. Yeah,
so mine would be present every day.
I love that as well. Simple yet so effective. You know, how often are we actually where we are meant to be and not off, you know, in our thoughts or in another place? You know, think of the difference from one conversation, being present and holding that focus and being present just in one interaction every single day. It's massive, isn't it? Yeah, awesome. Fabulous. Okay, so I have managed to stick to time today, because I never do on these calls, but I think that's a really nice place for us to close off. So you're going to go away. I'll email you exactly where you'll end, but it'll be quite clear because you won't start the next module, the next bit really. But yeah, next week we will start off with doing a few more inner journeys, like 2 more that are just a little bit more kind of visualization based that Lizzie will lead. And then we'll start half of that session just starting to create that purpose statement, but we'll just look at the metaphor, you know, which is the I am the. So Lizzie will do some work with us around that. And just to share mine, so mine is, and still is actually, I am the lighthouse that guides you home. So that is my life purpose statement. As you can see, like, it makes me smile saying it, but I'm like, it makes you see how the metaphor embodies you and you know, your uniqueness, and then the impact then resonates in terms of the action. So you can see how that comes together. And what we'll do is put together a few different versions, and then you'll kind of come out with a few drafts and play around with this. But a lot of the power in this is the words and the way you're using them. So it's having the freedom to kind of like really chop and change things, because you'll say it in a way that just you're like, that is it. Like, you know, but actually it just takes a bit of practice to get this right, you know. And like anything we've done so far, this can be used as a daily mantra as well. So it can be something we actively, you know, use in our lives too. Lizzie, anything to add? Because I know you're going to be doing a bit more of that session next week. Anything to add from kind of your, you know, you going through this so far? Because I guess with you, it's a bit different because you're kind of on you're doing your life purpose bit. But yeah, what were your reflections? Oh, there you go, mute.
Yeah, no, I think starting off with the visualizations to move into the purpose statement is a really good way to go about it, because it's that sort of repetition of sort of like affirmations and mantras, and it's through that repetition you start to really embody those, don't you? And when you embody, then you manifest, and then it becomes your reality. So I think that's what I'd really like to add to it. That's a good starting point. And yeah, then from there as well, you know, through journaling and through just living our days mindfully, you know, you can bring that statement in as many times as you need to, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. Any final thoughts? You know, is that what we were expecting when we got to life purpose? Like, did you think anything? Because obviously there's a few books on the reading list as well around this area. So do revisit, I'll send that later, but do revisit some of those, some books. Because I know, Maria, you're really loving The Purpose Myth, aren't you? That book, which is a new one I added, which is Charlotte Kramer. So it might be worth just looking at that as well, because there's so much out. I have to be honest, I feel like finding your why is a massively overpopulated conversation, but you know, my issue is the fact that I think we just look at it all differently, really. But yeah, any kind of initial thoughts before I let you all go? Any perspectives, anything to add or share?
I mean, is it possible to have more than one, or is it really just about having?
Yeah, I think you can have more than one. I feel like I say with this work, I'm never going to say no. I'm never going to say you're wrong, because you can't be. So if you feel like you need more than one, then it's obviously right for you to have more than one. But I'd ask you to think about why. It might be that you need different ones for different parts of your lives or different solutions, because it comes back to the solution of who am I becoming, right? So actually, if your focus is getting a new role, then actually it might be getting you there, but you might need another one to support you in a challenging family situation at home, for example. So use it freely. And if you're kind of being pulled to kind of create more than one, trust that, I'd say. But maybe not like 10 or something, because then it's like, I've got my list. It's like, which one, you know, come on, we need to, yeah, maybe, but that's where the drafts will help, because you'll probably find that you have a few, and then you probably will really resonate with one more than the others, really. Maria, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just wanted to add that it always is such a pleasure to be, you know, seeing all of you, and you know, gaining, you know, exchanging these energies, and you know, seeing how some of us achieve things, you know, how we progress, you know, from one stage to another. Because sometimes, you know, I must be honest, sometimes, you know, because I've not completed something entirely, I feel like, oh, I really dread this call. But actually, every single time, it's just, you know, you know, I get to learn so many things, and it turns out to be a lot more enjoyable than I thought it would be because of my
That's our mind getting in the way,
yeah,
right? Like our
yeah.
mind doesn't want us to, it's really hard to explain, but it's like with yoga or something, anything that's good for you, your mind's like, oh no, that might be hard, or no, you don't want to do that. You don't feel quite tired. But that's just the fact that you're building a new neural pathway in your brain, and you're doing something different, and you're leaning into a different emotion, and you're exploring. So your mind is just not liking it because it's new. So we almost need to quieten that voice and almost kind of, you know, encourage ourselves. Like, it's going to be really fun. Like, that's a really good thing for you to say when your mind plays that trick. Like, bring your mind on the journey. It's like, come on, we're going to talk it up almost, because that's a bit of a trick there that we can experience. Awesome. I was going to say something then, and it's completely gone from my head, so it must be not that important, hopefully. Oh yes, there we go. Alumni. So yeah, the idea with the alumni is that there'll be a monthly coaching call. So what I will do probably in the next few weeks is just send you some kind of information on that, you know, in a PDF over email, that you guys can let me know if you want to be part of that. We finish around the last week of August, and it probably the first call will be the first week of September. So if you want, you can carry straight on and have that monthly call. But the idea is that we revisit, we rotate the topics. So we'll revisit like month 1, 2, and 3, and we'll rotate them every month. So it's all about just keeping this fresh, and interestingly, running it for the first few months. People get out of the habit of using this information and using the tools. So it's about really driving, like, Francesca, how have you honored your value of X this week? You know, so you can be like, oh God, like you're actively practicing. So I recognize the fact that 3 months isn't enough time to bed a lot of this in. So it's just something to consider that I think would be just a nice container for people that want to continue this work, really. And the idea is that there'll always be different content and topics that I'll then throw in as the program evolves. There's already 6 in it, because I've obviously ran 1 cohort already. So it'll be almost nice to see you all together too, because you're all one big family, really. And we might be able to, if you guys are up for it, have some kind of physical get together, because I'm actually doing some aerial yoga with the guys that have just graduated on the 1st of August. So if you do want to try and do something in person, then I can arrange an aerial. I thought that was really fitting. Like, an aerial yoga session is like so fun. It'd be in Oxford for the people in London. That's the problem. I know the lady that runs it here in the studio, but yeah, let's keep talking about that. We can always do a doodle poll if people are up for doing something, but we won't focus on the end yet. We've still got a good month together, so not going to get sad yet. But yeah, all good. I will let you guys go, and me and Azure just stay for the next kind of 5-10 minutes for anyone that has any questions. And yes, enjoy the rest of your sunny evening.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you so
later.
much.
Bye guys.
Bye.